This is Sarah Broniger of the New Horizons Academy, and this is the first of a series of videos on percents. The first point with percents is that decimals and fractions have to be in. If the student is not comfortable converting decimals to fractions and back, don't start percents. The second point is division can be written in 3 different ways, and you have to make sure that a student is comfortable with that. 12 divided by 3 is 4, but that can also be 12 divided by 3 is 4. Most students get that. It can also be 12 divided by 3 is 4. Most students have never thought of that. They have to be comfortable with using all 3 methods. And once you get into percentages, you're not always going to have this wonderful stable bit of data of the big number divided by the little number. That idea has to go. Now we'll have things like 1 over 6 is 1 divided by 6 is 1 divided by 6. Yeah? So make sure that concept is comfortable for the student, because in the next demo and in the demos where we're actually doing percentages in sentences, I'll be using this back and forth. And if that's not comfortable, it'll be too hard. Percents. Most people correctly get percents defined as per, for every, and cent being 100, for every 100. I want to take that definition one step further, divided by 100. From this viewpoint, any percent would mean that heart divided by 100, that heart divided by 100, that heart divided by 100. They're all the same thing. Let me give you an example of that. 2% is 2 divided by 100 is 0.02. 1/4 is the same as 25 hundredths is 25%. So again, whatever it is over 100, that's what it is in percents, because divided by 100 means percent. Too many students, I find, have this little symbol here and it has no meaning. It's 25%. It has no meaning. They'll actually do things like write 0.25% as a fraction, and they'll say a quarter, because there's no meaning here. So you have to get this meaning of percent means divided by 100. You can illustrate that like this. 25% is not as big as it looks. It looks like it's 25, but it's actually 100 times smaller than that. It's 25 hundredths. It's 0.25. This has a meaning. The meaning is this is not as big as it seems. It's 100 times smaller. With that in mind, you can now have something stable that will help you turn any percent to a fraction or decimal, or any decimal to a percent. And that middle step, which should never be skipped, is hundredths. Even if you don't write it eventually, you should always think it. So here's a percent, and your book will tell you to turn it into a decimal. Here is a fraction, and they want you to turn it into a percent. Both of these problems have a middle step that should never be skipped, even if it's only thought, and that's turning it into hundredths. Okay. 5% is 5 hundredths, because that is what percent means. 2/5 is the same as 4 tenths, is 40 hundredths. 5 hundredths is 1/20th. Now we've turned a percent into a fraction. 40 hundredths is 40%. Now we've turned a fraction into a percent, and both of them, no matter which direction you're going, like this or like this, have this middle step of turning it into hundredths. This step keeps the understanding in this process, and it gives the student something stable. It can seem to a student like there are a billion types of percents. You've got decimals in percents, you have fractions in percents, you have percents of percents. It can get a little intimidating. So you want to give them something stable. Anytime you're converting any kind of percent to anything else, or anything to a percent, take this middle step of turning it into hundredths, and the whole thing is simple. I'll give you a few more examples. Some harder ones. Okay. So this number is not as big as it seems. It's actually tiny because it's 100 times smaller than that. It's 0.028, 100 times smaller. That means that we have 28 thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths. It's a very small number. It's 0.028 made 100 times smaller. Without this, the student gets lost in, oh, which way does the decimal point move? Well, I want them to remember which way the decimal point moves. I want them to think 100 times smaller than it seems. It seems like 28 thousandths. It's not. It's 100 times smaller than that. It's 2800 thousandths. Let's turn that into a percent. Again, stable datum. How many hundredths is that? 1.45 is 145 hundredths. If it's 145 hundredths, it's 145% because percent means hundredths. So it works in either direction. It's a good stable datum, and it keeps the understanding in every problem, and it keeps the student away from memorizing moving decimals in different directions.